Hello everyone. So you probably are seeing a white box on the screen, and that is because I have another Penbbs pin for you guys. So I've been trying to keep up with Penbbs launches through Etsy specifically, and through the Penbbs official store, and then of course on eBay, and I know there's other websites that you can look at as well. One of the pins that I've been wanting to get because I waited too long to purchase was the Penbbs 355, in specifically the clear version. I wanted to get that pin. I thought it was an interesting filling system with the bulk filler, but also just to kind of add to my collection. But I waited, of course, too long to get it. And I know they still have the blue version available right now on eBay. But I'm hoping, just hoping that maybe they'll do a limited restock on the clear. If not, so be it. But when I was on there, I saw this model launched, and most specifically the 471 model. You'll notice there is no sticker on this box like other Penbbs pins. So I don't know if it got torn off or if it just didn't get a sticker. So it's actually written down what it is. So this is the 471, which is their pocket fountain pen. And the code to it is 471-37GM. And of course it comes in your standard Penbbs pen coffin with a magnet. You pop that open and we see our fountain pen down in there. So I thought this was a really kind of a different colored acrylic. Kind of stood out a little bit when I was looking at the all the different colors that they had on the Etsy website. Of course you get one of these little eyedroppers with it because this is an eyedropper fountain pen. And then in addition, you get one of these little roller ball attachments, which I think is kind of nice. And then we've of course got our pen inside of here. Now these all came with sleeves on them, with little plastic sleeves, so they were nice and protected. And we'll put our pen down on our little pen rest here and kind of take a look at it. So first impressions, of course, the pen is rather small, and rightfully so. It is a pocket fountain pen. I think the acrylic is really interesting. It definitely has some translucent properties to it, like a lot of Penbbs acrylics. Has some depth with it being kind of that shard look. And then of course some chatoyance as well. You can kind of see some of the light coming off of the acrylic. And then just getting an up close look, you can kind of see, a lot of, to me, you've got some black, gray, of course, a lot of gray, white, and even just a hint of like a dark blue, navy-ish color. And I think it's an interesting color. I really like it. Now, you look at the pen and you're wondering, okay, how does this pen function? It looks different than just about any other pocket pen. So this portion right here is actually the body of the pen technically. So this is where your ink goes. Bear in mind, this is an eyedropper pen. So our ink is going to go back here. This is technically your cap right here. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So when we uncap the pen, there's our section and nib. Ink goes here. And then essentially here is your very long cap. Now you'll notice that we've got this metal piece up here. It almost looks like a nut to a bolt, so to speak. So we unscrew that. It completely can be detached. Now this is nice because you'll notice without that, there's really no weight in this pen at all. Even if you were to put ink in here, it'd be a very, very light pen. So with this metal piece that, as you can tell, is it's faceted, it allows you to have weight to the actual pen. So when we go to uncap the pen and post, you can post it a few different ways. You can post with the metal piece here in the middle as such. And then what it does is it kind of will help to downweight the pen a little bit to the nib, but I think it actually makes the pen very well balanced. You'll notice the pen, once we have it posted like this, it fits nice in the hand. Now you can, of course, put it to where if you like a pen that is just a little bit back weighted, you can put the metal piece back towards the back end of the pen. Now it does, to me, make the pen unbalanced in my opinion, but that's another option. And then of course your last option is you can write with the pen completely without that metal piece. So if you want a really nice light pen, right with it without the metal piece. So just some options that you have. You know, I was even playing around with it. You can technically put this piece right here on your threads, but of course it just makes it kind of weird and awkward to use. But I think an interesting design, to say the least. One thing I have noticed is that at times, at least for me, there is a little bit of an opportunity with cross threading, so you just have to be very careful whenever I'm putting it. So for instance, I have it here whenever I go to put my cap and attach it to my body section here, I really have to kind of play around with it. It's one thing I have noticed. Now, I've not inked up this pen yet, so I've not even written with it yet. Now you'll notice we have our section here, and of course we have a step down onto these threads. The threads though are well machined, and even though there is that step down, if you happen to hold it up higher, to me it's not very uncomfortable. I kind of put it in the aspect of the Moonman Wonkai as far as a similar type step down. But one thing I really like is it's got that kind of standard Penbbs section where it just tapers down from here all the way to the end and has that flare out. And it's a nice size section. I feel like it's going to be nice to write with and very comfortable. The other cool thing with this being a pocket pen is it has a number 6 size nib, which I don't have any pocket pens that have a number 6 size nib. So I think that's a really interesting thing. Now you'll notice we have the Penbbs medium nib here. And this is my first Penbbs medium nib. I know a lot of reviewers have really enjoyed this nib, so I'm hoping I will have the same experiences with it. You've of course got your standard Bbs Feed on the back there. So again, very nice. Now, as far as taking off the barrel, it's very similar to most Penbbs pens. You've got your little O-ring back here towards the end. Of course, total acrylic here, nice threads. Of course, you get that tension when you take it off. And then there's where you put your ink, basically. So, you know, very nice design, very interesting pen. Let's look at the pen now completely disassembled. All right, guys. All right, so here we have everything disassembled with our pen. And so we'll kind of start up at the top and work our way over. So here is the actual, you could say barrel portion. So of course, here's where our ink would go inside of. So this is going to be your ink holding capacity right here is going to be this portion right here. With it being an eyedropper, it's going to have a really decent, nice size ink holding capacity, more than what you would get with, generally speaking, with a converter or a cartridge. And then we've got our little, again, metal piece here to add some weight. One thing I did not do earlier was show some of the information on this. So of course you have 471 there. You've got these little arrows as well. And then you have Penbbs on this side. And then here is our cap right here, our very nice elongated cap. And one of the questions is what does this cap look like on the inside? And most specifically, what is it machined like? So we've got our acrylic in there, and you'll notice that we've got a nice cap line. It looks like it's machined into the acrylic. So it's not an insert or anything. I'm sure it seals up very nicely. I haven't had any issues, like for instance, my Penbbs 323 or anything like that. And then we've got our Penbbs feed here. These feeds are really pretty nice. See our channel there, and you know, one of the issues with this feed, or at least in my opinion, is just these fins are very, very thin. And you've got to be very careful when you're removing or putting the pen back together, meaning the nib and feed unit, that you don't bend or damage these fins. And generally I will hold it about right here or just right on the sides whenever I'm putting the feed back in. I made the mistake one time of holding right here, and I put too much pressure and bent the fins and had to then sit there and reposition them back into place. And then we've got our medium number 6 size nib. This is a nice nib. Of course, it says we've got that kind of really nice M design, Penbbs 2005, Shanghai, China. So again, a nice nib. It's got some nice tipping material on there, as you can tell. So I'm excited to use that nib. And then we of course have our holder for our nib and feed. You'll notice, like all Penn-BBS pins, we've got a little O-ring here and then one back here to really seal that up nicely. And then here's our section as well. So again, very nice there. Very nice design, very nice, well made. Really cool that it has a number 6 size nib. I think that's an awesome part about the pen. So up next, guys, let's compare this pen, size-wise and things of that nature to some other pocket fountain pens. All right, guys, so here we have 3 other fountain pens to compare the 4712. You'll notice that size-wise, that was the first thing I noticed when I looked at this pen, is very similar to the Moonman Wankai. Overall girth, somewhat similar, and length as well when capped. You'll notice above both of those pens, I've got a Pilot Petite as well, kind of another pocket type fountain pen, and then above that we have a Delike Alpha in the resin material. So these two are really, I call these I call this one my chapstick pen, because it literally is not much bigger than a chapstick or a thing of chapstick, and this one I think kind of fits into that same mold, which is, I like that in a pocket pen, because you can literally, in my opinion, put it in any pocket, just about. I mean, literally any pocket. This pen goes with me a lot of places because of that reason, so this one might now be put into that rotation. If it's a really nice consistent writer, of course. Now let's look at these pens once they're uncapped and posted. All right, so here we see all 4 now posted, and you'll notice that the Penn-BBS pen is much larger overall length than the Moonman Wankai. I think the next thing, at least for me, that I notice is the section. The section is a lot different. The Wankai has a smaller section. It's a little bit girthier, I think, overall. And again, kind of going back to that step down, very similar in step downs, as well as the Pilot Petite up here. But I feel like this one is going to be a nice, comfortable section to hold. I enjoy writing with my Wankai. I've written several pages all at once with it, have had no issues, but I do like this. The next thing that I personally notice is the nib, the difference in nib sizes here. And we'll kind of get all 4 of these nibs. Pilot's got their own unique proprietary nib, but these other 3 are definitely a lot smaller than the Penn-BBS. Your Delike's just a standard number 5, as well as our Moonman Wankai here. Our Delike over here at the end, I like this pen, but it's definitely got a smaller section, a little more streamlined. You do have threads here, so you can hold it just about anywhere though. It's definitely the longest pen out of this grouping, which is nice. But I definitely, again, going back to the Moonman, minus the step down that it has here, I think it has a very nice section, a lot of room to hold the pen. And I think it's going to be a very nice, comfortable writing experience. So there you have it, as far as kind of giving an idea of sizing comparisons between some other pens. And it's crazy that both of these pens, when they're capped, are basically about the same size, but you'll notice there's a fairly decent size difference in overall length once you post the pens. Up next, let's look at this acrylic a little bit closer, and then we'll move on from there. See you guys in a second. All right, when I say we're going to look at the acrylic a little bit closer, we're going to add some light here and just kind of see what this acrylic looks like with some light, and that is just really cool. So one of the coolest things I think about these type of pens and the materials that they're made out of is just to kind of see them with light going through them and see all of the different colors and things. So this one really projects more of a clear color. You'll see a lot of veins coming through, of course, and then here now we see our darker colors here, and again, to me, it kind of gives that navy kind of dark blue look, even though under normal lighting it looks more of a black or a dark gray color. But a very nice pen. You see your threads there. Just a very, very cool pen. This is actually going through the barrel where the ink would be. So you can kind of see that. There we can see our feed going through the actual section there. But again, nice pen. So up next, guys, I'm going to put some measurements and weights on the screen for you, and then we will ink this thing up and get a writing sample going for you guys. All right, everyone, we are back, and we're going to get this writing sample going real quick. So we're going to uncap and post. So I have not yet written with this pen yet. So we're going to see, I did make sure that the feed and nib was saturated, but this will be our first official writing. So we have a pen, BBS, and again, this is the 471 model, and it is the 37 GM. And as you guys already know, this is the medium nib, and it is a steel. Now this is a very smooth nib, I will say. It's laying down a very nice consistent line. The ink that I'm using I already showed you guys, but it is the Penn BBS ink. The 281 is the number. Kind of an, as I said before, an orange ink. So let's look at an actual writing sample here. So the Quick Brown Fox. And I know I already said this, but this nib is just very, very smooth. You know, very nice writer to, you know, just glides across the paper. Very, very impressed with the nib. Here's some downstrokes, a little bit of pressure. You know, you can get out, not really much line variation. I mean, here would be no, mainly to me, it just spits out more ink, some cross strokes. But again, nice pen. You know, as far as wetness, I feel like this is a very wet nib. I mean, there you can see it. This ink and nib and feed combination seem to be working very well. I'm very happy so far. You know, only time will tell overall, but like I said, just a nice wet writer. I mean, it just spits ink onto the paper. The ink does dry fairly decently though. So I mean, up here you can tell we're not smudging or anything. So it does dry quickly overall. So what did I pay for this pen? So I paid with shipping plus tax on Etsy. I paid $32.03. So not a bad price. Now the question is it worth that price? And I'm going to say yes. It's obviously more expensive than your Moonman Wankai, but you're getting I think a very, very attractive acrylic material. You get a number 6 size nib, and this is a medium nib, which I don't know very many Chinese brands right now, you know, pens that you can get medium nibs with. So I think that is a big selling point. Number 6 size nib, medium nib. You know, I think it's a great deal in my opinion. I really like the pen. I am getting more and more infatuated with pocket pens. Never really had a need or want for them before, but I'm starting to really like them more. And this is definitely a pen that's going to go a lot of places with me. And this nib is just a joy to write with. I mean, it just, gosh, it glides across the paper. Let's do some reverse writing, see how it does. Let's say now we've got an extra fine, and it's actually, you know, it's not scratchy. And again, it glides across the paper very well. No issues there. So I approve this pen. Great pen, writes well, no complaints whatsoever. No skips, nothing. If you have an opportunity, if you haven't already checked this pen out, go to Etsy. I will put a link in the description to the Penbbs official store on Etsy. I have noticed that they are now selling some of their pens on eBay as well. I've been noticing them kind of going over to that realm as well again. So we're seeing a lot more Penbbs pens, at least in my opinion. That's what I've noticed the last couple of weeks. So check it out, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.